us know when. Yep, there we are. So we are recording. My plan is for this meeting to last approximately 95 minutes, and hopefully it will be more like 85 minutes so that we have a bit of a break between this meeting. I have a bit of a break between this meeting and the next meeting. Are there any quick announcements that go beyond outside of this group? I would think not, since we just had 30 minutes to chat. And I would like to schedule our next meeting at the end of this meeting when we know more about what we want to do and how much time we might need to spend doing that. Is that acceptable to everyone, that we wait to schedule this meeting until the end?
Okay.
Yes. Okay. All right. Excellent.
It would definitely be nice to send, if you guys send out a doodle. Maybe don't decide on a specific time yet is my request, just because I won't be here. Okay.
Well, or we could decide right now. Well, but you're right. We need to do the doodle because Ray is also not here. So we'll send a doodle out. Okay. The third agenda item is to consent to this agenda. Are there additions or reactions to the agenda that we need to make?
I consent.
All right. Does everyone consent? I can see everyone in one look here. Jorge and Nolan, have you had a chance to look?
I am just reviewing it quickly. It looks great. I know that this is not going to be definite, right? It's going to be the start of the process. So it looks good.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely the start of the process. And Jorge, you missed the fact that, you know, I just got my book, Many Voices, One Song, like literally 15 minutes before this meeting started is when it came in. And so I'm just learning how to do this. So, all right, so we have consent to using this agenda, and yes, everything is movable. So the fourth item on the agenda is for us to decide what roles we need to have inside of this group. And I understand that this is a small group, and yet when I read the sociocracy information, defining the roles and nominating people to fill those roles, whether it's a larger group or a subgroup, is a really important part of this process. Because we're looking for involvement, the inclusion of every person in a really meaningful way. And sociocracy talks about the fact that people who volunteer are not always the people who have the right skills for the role. And people who don't volunteer may have characteristics and qualities and skills that they're not even aware of that other people can see. And so the nomination process, you know, helps to pull all of that out. And it allows for terms so that people know that they're going to do something, but it's for a period of time, not necessarily forever. And that can be very helpful. And it helps to develop leadership in a group so that that is shared between everyone. And Jorge, you can probably say a whole lot more about this than I can. As I looked at it, I thought that we needed to have a facilitator for the meeting who will, you know, keep the meeting going and try to keep track of the timing and make sure that everyone has the opportunity to participate. We need a secretary, someone to take the notes and publish the notes. And we need to have a delegate, someone who will report back to the larger VCI group. And so our next piece of work is to actually look at each of those individually, define the role, define the length of time a person would fill that role, define the qualifications, and then we would each nominate someone and then go through a consent process. So there's, you know, I will tell you, there's a piece of me that's like, look, this is a small group, we can just get to work. And yet I think it's really helpful both to practice for the larger group and to do this within this group. Even though it's a small group, I think it's important to go through this. Is there other conversation that we want to have? Do we want to get right into defining each of these roles?
Well,
I just want to say amen, hallelujah to what you just said, Anne, because after all, this is the VCI tools group, and having rules and procedure, etc., these are tools. So if the VCI tools group isn't going to use the tools, you know what? So anyway, I'm just really supporting what you're saying. I'm all in.
All right, cool. So let's go ahead then and take a look at the facilitator role. And I listed some things that I think of as the things that role would do, but are there other things? I listed those 3 that I already mentioned and that are written on the agenda. Are there other things that a facilitator will do? Does anyone have anything to add?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Benjamin. Sorry.
The only thing I was going to add was the scheduling of the meeting, such as creating a doodle. I don't know whether that is part of the facilitator's role or if we want to create a fourth role to do that. And then the Zoom facilitation, that is something that Jamin and Nolan have expressed interest in doing. So I don't know if that's part of, I kind of include that in facilitation, but that could also be another role.
I would kind of see that there would need to be, from my perspective, the facilitator would interact with the people who are setting up the Zoom, because Jamin and Nolan aren't going to be a part of every group. And so if we're trying to model this, I think that it would be helpful to say the facilitator, or the secretary, one of the, either role could do that, both in terms of scheduling. I don't know that we need a 4th person. It seems like the scheduling and or the Zoom could either fall under facilitation or under the secretarial duties. I'm open to either way.
It feels to me natural that the facilitator would be the person responsible for doing the doodle polls and determining the schedule and communicating that. The secretary would basically be note-taking during the meeting and writing up stuff after the meeting. But the facilitator seems like their job would really be to lead. And, the first part of leading is rounding up everybody and making sure the timing works. And then other thoughts I have about the facilitator is, I'd say taking responsibility for, the agenda and also, the topics that are going to be raised. And that's, I would just propose that we add that to the facilitator's duties. Defining topics and a really rich agenda. Like, all right, today we're going to talk about this thing that we've been looking at, and Nolan's been researching it, and Nolan's going to present for 20 minutes on this, and then we're all going to talk about, that sort of thing.
Right. Okay. All right. I got that. So I've added scheduling, doodling, Zoom setup, and determining the agenda. Are there any other things that need to be added to the facilitator's tasks? Okay. For a term of service, I am unclear at this point if these work groups are going to be going long-term or if they'll be shorter term. And so I don't want that to hamper us. So I would suggest that we go with a year. We're in January. We say the term is 1 year. Would other people like to do something other than a year as a term?
Do you mean for implementing the library, like the content of the library?
No, I mean, in terms of being the facilitator of this group, if the group lasts for a year, then whoever does the facilitation would facilitate for 1 year or be a secretary, for all of 2020. And each January, we would redo these unless something happens throughout the year.
Okay.
And I'm certainly open to another term of service. That just seems to make sense to me.
I think this is a wonderful exercise. I am wondering two things. One is that this last 5-minute discussion is not in the agenda. And this is a very important thing to mention, because once you establish sociocracy, I know that we're just like stepping into it. But if there is an agenda and everybody consent on the agenda, and then there's discussions that are not in the agenda, that that is like a good learning experience of what is not sociocracy. Like the part of the yes, the part of the roles, or is it in the agenda? Like I'm reading through it, like the role choosing of the roles.
So
Yeah.
So number
Is it there?
4, I guess I think it's in the agenda. So
Where?
number 4, nomination for roles, and then I listed them. And then for each role, we would have discussion for defining it, defining the term, defining the qualifications, nominating someone, and consenting. Is that,
Where is that agenda? Sorry, maybe I'm reading something else. I am reading what was posted in the email. Like, it was not a post, it was in the email.
Oh,
In the email that you sent.
I've been attaching agendas to the calendar appointment on Zoom, so I can send you that separately for you to look at, Jorge.
Now is it like the one that you sent me for the link? Or
Yeah, I'll reply to that one.
No, don't worry about it. Then it's my mistake. I didn't have the agenda. Now I see it. Okay. Let me just go through it quickly. If you want to continue, yeah. Like, when was this sent?
this morning at
It was this morning.
Yeah, I just had time to do this morning. And
okay. Then
yes.
I apologize because I didn't receive it, and I was reading your last email, like Anne's email. Okay.
Gotcha.
I will check.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, wait, I think it's in the agenda.
Yeah, like,
yeah,
I was like,
okay.
What? Okay.
Right. Okay. All right. So take a minute to catch up, Jorge, and make sure,
yes,
because you're the one who knows this better than anyone else.
Admin 5 minutes. Consent to record the intent. Okay, now it makes sense. Okay.
And I believe that it's my understanding that I'm on the list now, but I never got an email with an agenda if I was supposed to get that over email.
Right. You didn't get it, Nolan, because I failed to write your name down. And so this did not go to you. And I apologize.
No worries. I just wanted to clarify.
But yes, yes. So you would not have gotten the agenda because you were not on the list. You will be on the list and you will get future agendas.
Awesome.
And for future reference, I'm going to try to make sure that everyone gets it via email, but I'm also, every single time I set up a calendar event on Basecamp, I include the agenda either as a comment or as a part of the event. So if you're ever lost and want to try to find it somewhere else, it's going to be in the Vegan Collective Intelligence Basecamp group on the calendar. That'd be one place to check.
That's good to know.
And I will do my best to get an agenda out a minimum of a day before the meeting in future. I simply did not have time to do that before this morning.
Okay. All right. So the duration of the total meeting is going to be 5. Okay.
Well, I'm
Cool.
hoping.
All right. I think I'm up to speed.
Okay. So is this adequate to be able to continue, Jorge? is this agenda adequate to continue this, or do we need to do something different?
This is my experience so far. Like sociocracy is not meant to have like a fixed way to implement it. And having said that, the best way to go is to start before the election of the roles, is to start with the VMA and culture. The VMA being the vision, mission, and aims, along with the culture. And why is that important? Because then we know who we are and what is our work and what are the aims. For example, like making a library of tools available for everybody in the project is a very concrete aim, right? But yeah, like usually the VMA starts from the very top, from Vegan World 2026, also from the VCI, and then it would be easier to start with the VMA of the work group of the two library. But since we're like trying to start things as we go, I think it would be good to just like listen to what I'm saying, but not to take it as, okay, let's hold a meeting and let's restructure the agenda. It's just like easier to start from who we are and what is our work, and then select the roles. I don't know if I.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. And right, I'm trying to use as much of sociocracy so that we don't get further, ahead of ourselves before doing it. But I totally get that, which is why we want to do the VMA at the VCI meeting next week. And so, right, so this is
a good preview and exercise, like a role election, and making all these let's say the description of the role is super important. And for that, I think the best tool that I have seen so far, though I don't like spreadsheets and I don't like Google Drive and all of that, it has been very useful to have a Google Drive set up where we can store all the spreadsheets by subject or by group or by study group or whatever you want to call it. And then you can go and open it and share it on the screen during the Zoom meeting, so we can, everything that you're writing down.
Okay, right. So you would, right. That's, you were saying that last Friday when we talked, and I didn't totally understand what you were saying. So I don't know how to do that, but I get it. So that spreadsheet would be up, and these facilitates the meetings, keeps track of time. That would all be typed out, so everyone would be looking at it at the same time.
And real time filling out like role description, no? And then everything that people say is visible, boom, 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 and you can see it in the spreadsheet and it's saved.
Right. And then you would put the term, you would do all of that on the spreadsheet. So it
Correct.
would all be written down. So the notes would be being taken as the meeting took place, and everyone would see them at the same time.
Correct.
Got it. That's okay. Yes, that's beautiful. And yeah, and I don't know how to do that myself.
I know how to do that, but I think this needs to be some sort of like an official account, like the one in Zoom, like the one in YouTube. Like it needs to be an official account where not
it needs
everybody
to be in Basecamp, right?
I don't know in Basecamp. I think that there is an integration with Google Drive. I'm not sure about that, but what I'm saying is like there needs to be an official project account. Like it wouldn't be like Jorge's Google Drive, you know?
Right.
Yeah, and from there give authorization to certain log keepers of every group. So not everyone has access to it, just like the log keepers. And in case that this sort of like role description want to be inclusive, then put a date for people that were not part of this meeting to collaborate by having a couple of days to add what they think that the description of the role would be. And then you set up like, okay, if you don't do it in 2 days, then we take for granted that everybody is on board, that is interested on doing the role description. And that can happen for the VMA or for the culture or for a proposal or whatever.
Gotcha. So I'm still, or I'm a bit confused about whether we should continue doing what we're doing right now or whether we should hold off and come back after we do the VMA in VCI and then do the VMA here and then do all of this, or if we continue going through this understanding that it could all change again, but it at least gives us a chance to practice. Yes, okay, so people are saying yes, we should do that. Okay, so for today's meeting, I mean, we are recording all of this. I'm taking some notes. I don't know if anyone else is, but I'm taking notes on paper, I mean, literal, like, you know, with my pen here, and, you know, we'll do the best that we can do. Okay, so we are talking about the facilitator role. We have added some things, and now we want to talk about the term of service that the facilitator would hold. And we'll just go through each of those three. And this is not set in stone, right? We don't even have to, I mean, we could hold the consent round, or we could even hold off on that and begin to put this stuff together. I don't know, we'll come back to that conversation, but let's go through for each of the roles, these things, get some notes taken down, see where we're going. Now I certainly understand where that spreadsheet would come in helpful. Okay, so term, does anyone have anything to add to the idea of how long a term the facilitator would serve? Okay, then I'm going, oh.
So sometimes, like, the facilitator is not going to be able to do all of the meetings. So it's good to have that role not completely fixed. So people know the role description and can fill in for the place of the person that is usually on top of that. So it is just like, it's not a fixed role usually. And if someone wants to say, I need to go on a vacation and I can go, it's not like, oh no, you need to fulfill that. But yeah, like, it's like a wild card kind of thing. Huh?
Is that true for all of the roles? Because the same issue would be true for all of the roles.
True. Like, yeah, like, for example, if someone knows that they can completely be dedicated to have the role of the meeting organizer, let's say, then that person would say, okay, I can do it for the next 3 months. You know, like, it's a commitment from the person. But then it's not like completely fixed. That's the beauty. Like, there's no leader, there's no like fixed roles. Like, everybody knows how everything runs and can take over anytime.
Right, and
that's
honestly,
one way to do it. It's not like also fixed. Huh?
Right, and honestly, Jorge, I mean, in all of the work that I've done over the last 40 years, that's always been true, because people, I mean, something comes up. You do take vacations. You get the opportunity to present at a conference out of state and you're gone for a meeting, and you ask someone to fill in for you that's also on the group that knows you and knows what you do. And no matter what role you have, people get sick and they, you know, just with the flu, and they don't show up that day, and the meeting goes on anyway, but someone else fills in for that. So I would absolutely, I mean, even in very bureaucratic situations, that's true. Okay, so do we want to not define a term?
I think that's something up for like the moment of the role election.
Gotcha. So we hold off until okay. Now, qualifications. for the facilitator? What kind of qualifications are we looking for?
Well, maybe knowing their way around, for example, the meeting organizer needs to know how to send emails, how to use Doodle, how to write concrete agendas, you know, that kind of thing. That's what I understand by qualification, like having time to organize the meetings. Like, it sounds very common sense, but it's good to write it down, so in case someone needs to fill up the role, they know what they need to go through as a step-by-step list, no? Boom, boom, boom.
Right, and I think it's important that the facilitator be able to invite every person to participate, that they're comfortable assuring that every person participates. Anything else?
The log keeper, or how do you mention it, secretary or something like that? Yeah, is the log keeper, it would be like to have Excel, like data, well, not database, like a proficiency in Excel, on how to create copies, on how to put dates to that, on how to share it during the meetings. That has some kind of good deep listening skills, so they can really be typing and at the same time hearing the voice in real time, no? Boom, boom, boom.
Okay, anything else about the secretary?
I think for each of the roles, there's got to be some kind of familiarity with Basecamp and posting the agenda ahead of time, and then posting the notes after the meeting, so that those who weren't able to attend have somewhere to go and find it
and know where that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody else knows a better way to not use Google Drive and spreadsheets, this will be also like a proposal section of the organization, no? Like, I'm saying what I've been using and I don't like it, but it has been effective.
Okay, and since we're talking about qualifications, let's just go on to the delegate, and we'll just do qualifications for these three roles. So the delegate, as I understand it, is the role of the person that reports back to VCI. So there would be a person who was given the responsibility to report back to the larger group. That's the role. Qualifications do we want this person to have?
Is there a requirement for 2 of these delegates?
So I thought,
or is that something else?
I thought that there were, but I don't know that right now, because I read something that said having 2 delegates is much more equal and inclusive, and it allows, if one person isn't there, to make sure that there is always someone that is representing the group. But what I was reading today did not say that. So I don't know, and it might be that a subgroup of a group only needs 1 delegate, but from a larger group linking to another group, we might want to. So I'm not entirely clear about that because I'm not familiar enough yet. So Jorge,
Gotcha.
I don't know if it seemed to me with the subgroup to VCI, considering that all of us are on, I mean, the truth of the matter is everyone in the subgroup is on VCI. So it seemed easier in this example that we pick someone that we say, okay, Nolan, you're going to be there and you're going to report back. And if you can't be there, if you were nominated, I'm just using you as an example, Nolan. If you couldn't be there, any of the rest of us could pick that up because we're going to be there too. But we would nominate someone to routinely do it, if that makes sense. So the qualifications for the delegate.
I think Nolan wants to say something or not.
Yeah, I have a
I'm
question.
sorry, I was looking away.
I'm just wondering if we can, basically between the facilitator and the secretary, it sounds like they would really have it figured out what needs to be conveyed. So how do we separate the delegates from, like, if we're going to have separate delegates, why, instead of just having the facilitator and the secretary effectively be those? That's my question.
Okay, so maybe I can answer. Like, there are some people that are not part of the VCI and would be part of the study group or the under work group like we are right now, no? So if they have a role in this subgroup and they're not part of the main circle that they need to report, then they would need to only be part of it just to report. Maybe this is where the documentation on Excel comes handy, because anybody can just go into the spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet should be designed to really be easy to report the status of the whatever is being worked, like just like at the end of the meeting, there would be just like 5 minutes before it ends to say, okay, who is going to report it next meeting of the VCI for the status section of the VCI meeting. And anybody would be able to do it. It's just a question to have access to the link, open it, and say, during this last week, we worked in the VCI tool library, and so far we have this and this and this and this expected to be implemented by this date, and we have sent out emails or action requests to everybody involved to contribute and collaborate in getting the work forward, something like that. And it could be very easy once we start using the spreadsheets. So it wouldn't be necessarily to have like one person, again, like completely fixed for that, because it depends on these variables of that person being part of the reporting circle.
And I also think that given this particular example, only this one, because we are all on there, the secretary doing the holding the delegate role also would be a simple thing to do. So one of the things that I read this morning was that, I think it was on Sociocracy for All, but I'm not sure because I looked at multiple sites. What they said was the two roles that probably should not be the same are the facilitator and the secretary, because it is really hard to pay attention to facilitation and note-taking at the same time. But that for almost everything else, you can combine. So there were a couple of other roles, like for this group, they talked about having a leader. Well, for this working group, the subgroup, I don't think there needs to be a leader. Like I just don't. So I like literally left that off. I probably shouldn't have, because we probably all should have had conversation about it. But what I read was often that's just assumed either into the facilitator role or it's just shared among everyone. And that the scheduler is part of either the secretary or the facilitation role. And it depends on how complicated the thing is and how big it is and how much they're working on. These work groups are pretty specific to a thing. And they're reporting back to a specific group that everyone that's on the subgroup is a part of that group. So I think this is a little easier than when we start talking about the VCI group and the nature stewardship group and how they link together. I think that's a different conversation. And again, I'm in my infancy, I'm in kindergarten in my relationship to understanding sociocracy. So you have to take what I'm saying with, a grain of salt or whatever. But Nolan, I think that's a perfect point. Why do we need to have a separate person to do this? And any one of us could do it easily. It's just not that complicated.
Can I add something?
Sure.
These are just kind of questions. They're going to sound a little skeptical maybe, but so the Waldorf school kind of operates on this system, and they've had a lot of problems because there isn't really a head person. And so everything goes great when it's going great, but when there are problems and issues and you don't have, I don't like the word hierarchy, but I'm going to use it. It's very difficult to resolve issues if you don't have sort of one or two or more people who are at the kind of at a place where they can delegate over the general group to resolve something. So I just wanted to put that out there. And the other thing I wanted to just raise is a lot of times when we're volunteering, like some of us love taking on leadership roles, like Anne, you're really great at just jumping in and doing stuff. But I'm just wondering about burnout. And so I just wanted to mention that, like, it does the person, like say yourself, Anne, I'm just using you as an example. If you agree to be a facilitator and a delegate and do this, is it not going to get kind of overwhelming after a while if the load isn't spread out somehow more equally? So I just wanted to, those are kind of questions.
So Jorge, I want to answer because I think it helps me to understand, and then you come back in and correct or add or clarify. Okay. So for your first point, which now I have to remember your first point. In terms of not having a leader. So what I was just actually suggesting was that we didn't need to have a separate leader role, but that in fact the facilitator would be the default leader in this subgroup. So that's one piece. In terms of disputes, part of the beauty that I'm beginning to understand about sociocracy is that this consent process is absolutely not a majority vote idea. And that you continue through, they call them rounds. So every person gets an opportunity to say something. And so you consent, yeah, I'm good with that. Or I consent with I can't think of the word at this second. I consent with a concern, a problem. There's another word that they use. But I've got an issue with this. So I really kind of like it, but like what you just did, I'm concerned about burnout. I'm concerned about, and then we will have more discussion and build in the piece that's missing so that, Melissa, you can go back and consent fully. Or you say, no, I'm withholding my consent. I'm not good with that. And in that case, we don't move forward. Or we change something enough so that you can consent even if you've got some concerns. And then maybe we'll consent for a month or 3 months. But we will put an absolute date on, we're going to come back and look at this because all the concerns were not mitigated or figured out. So that would be what I would say about that first piece. The burnout piece, so this is really interesting to me. And when I first read about this nominating thing, I was like, that takes up so much more time when people just say, hey, I want to do this, and we should trust that people know themselves well enough. And then I kept reading about it and thinking about it, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. A person could nominate themselves. They don't have to only nominate someone else. So if they really feel like they're the ones and they can make a claim for doing the thing, then they can still nominate themselves. But then everyone else gets to nominate for that position. And then we would describe why we think that person, the person that we have nominated, has the qualifications that we've already defined, and why we think that would be a good thing. And so we have that all transparently. It's all out here. So Melissa, you say, Anne nominates herself to be the facilitator because she loves doing it. And Melissa's like, and she talks too much. You talk too much. You need to not talk so much. And I really want to nominate Benjamin because he's got these qualities. And we have that, and it's not a nasty thing. It's a factual thing. It's and then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, oh wait, this has there's some relief in that. And the other thing is, I could say, yeah, I'll do it, but I'm only going to do it for 3 months because it's a lot of work to put. I mean, I'm spending hours putting these agendas together and doing this background work to try and understand all of this. And yeah, I don't want to be. I don't want to get to the point where I resent it. So I'm going to say I'll do it for 3 months, and we can look at, and maybe in 3 months I'll do it again. I'll sign up for another 3 months, or maybe I won't. But it has this, I think you used the word radical equality, Jorge, when we were talking. It has this radical equality and this radical transparency. There's no anonymous voting. There's none of that. So that's my beginning understanding about how this works and the promise that I feel in it.
Yeah, I think that what you just expressed is how I have seen these things developing. And going a little bit back to what Nolan said, it made sense completely talking about this group, right? Because we see the same faces in this group and in the VCI, but just like thinking out of this current situation, yeah, like maybe what I said would apply, and what you said applies to this one because it makes sense that people can duplicate roles. And about what Melissa mentioned about the problems experienced in that Waldorf school, I don't know that case. Usually what I have seen is that the role description also relates to the culture that is being co-created. So ideally, the culture that is part of the VMA, the vision, mission, and aims, is being co-created and consented by everyone. So when these kind of problems arise, usually is that there's no living up to the consented culture. Because, an example, if part of the culture is how do we share responsibility, and then the leader is absent and things are not moving forward, then there's a conflict of role and culture, right? So you need to review that and to say, okay, maybe it's too much to say that we are radically equal and that we share responsibility. Then you say, okay, maybe that's the highest future possibility. How can we live up to that? Or to revisit actually our culture, no?
That's so beautiful, Jorge. I just wanted to thank you for that. Yeah, right on. We need more of that. everywhere. Thank you.
Guys, I'm going to have to drop off here, but it was wonderful hanging out, and I'm excited to see this tool group develop, and I will see you guys again soon.
And there'll be a doodle, and the doodle might come tomorrow. I mean, maybe later today, but we will get a doodle out, and you will definitely be on that list, Nolan.
Awesome.
Bye, Nolan. See you soon.
See ya.
Have a great day.
Yes, and no.
Have fun.
Okay. Do we want to go ahead and nominate people for, it looks like we're really talking about 2 roles for this group, facilitator and secretary. And we can also discuss which one of those would be the delegate back to, or hold that out and say we're going to assign that every time we meet. We could do either of those. But do we want to go ahead and nominate people now, or do we want to have more discussion? Or do we want to?
I would say let's do nominations after we do the VMA, because then we have a clear idea of what this group is, and then that just to logically flow.
All right, so we're going to hold, does everyone agree to holding the nominations until after we do the VMA?
Go ahead.
Well,
Yeah.
considering that we, sorry, Melissa, go ahead.
I was just going to say, can you do nominations already without like Ray and Nolan being present? Does that work? Just a quiz.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure how, I would not think that all of the work stops because someone isn't able to come to a meeting. So, I mean, I think that's going to happen over and over again. So I would guess, but I don't really know. So Jorge, do you know?
Well, like you have been saying, I think we have training wheels right now, no? So, so this is a great learning experience of getting our feet on the sociocracy water and testing the waters. Ideally, we would have been through the agenda and setting all the roles, and everybody would be present. But like when ideally meets reality, we need to be a little bit more patient and flexible. And I believe that this has been going great, considering the fact that the usual first steps outside of the working group that we are on at the moment have not been already established, no? So the way that I understand it is that something is going to be started on the next Tuesday VCI meeting about getting a grasp of what the vegan world vision, mission, and aims are, and how VCI is related to that, but beyond the beyond the way that usually is written in the VCI is this, no, who we are in the VCI, who are we in the VCI, and how is that related to contributing to the biggest transformation in human history, right? So once we get those, yeah, maybe we would put the bar higher, set the bar higher and say, no, we need to accomplish the agenda, and whoever is not here, this policy applies in those cases, right?
Yes, and so I just took a note that said we're going to hold on the nominations until after we do the VMA, but there are 2 other groups that need to do VMAs before we do. So Vegan World 2026 needs to have a VMA, and then VCI needs to do a VMA, and then this group can do their VMA, which at that point will be really simple because it's a very concrete working group that has a very specific task. And the question is a lot more about, do we really need this? And if we do, then here's how we're going to go about doing that, right? So yeah, I get that we're starting at step 2 or step 3 instead of step 1. And I have a concern because VCI is not Vegan World 2026, it's VCI. And so VCI can do a VMA, the vision, mission, and aims, but how can VCI do that if Vegan World 2026 has not done it? That's it. And so, you know, now I'm both feeling a little bit of anxiety about that. We've got all these meetings set up and yet we're starting in this kind of weird place. And I really want to do that because I think these other things will fall into place much easier once we do that. And I'm not sure. So I told Benjamin and Suzanne the other day that part of my hierarchical background, like, is shining through. Like, I think we need to have some sort of buy-in or permission from Silas about getting this done, and how to do it in Vegan World 2026 when there's 300 people. Like, how does that happen, including all of them, and not forestalling the rest of the work that we have some momentum about in VCI. Like, I don't want to lose the momentum in VCI because we're trying, and we aren't Vegan World 2026, and I don't know how to do this with 300 people, given how long it's taken us to get to a point to be able to do this. Yes, please. I'm just babbling at this point.
No, like, all these questions are great to have them documented, because like trying to get a little bit perspective about the circles, no? Like the circle that unites all other circles is the VCI, because there's no Vegan World 2026 circle, right? Like, I haven't been to any meeting in that. Yeah. So it would be like parallel. Yeah. It would be like at the same time that we do the VCI, we visit what is the Vegan World 2026. And by having this documentation available for everyone, you allow it to go into the collaborative space of the 300 people that are part of the Vegan World 2026 that are not active in the circles, to get a memo, to get a notice, to get a ping, whatever is necessary that we determine, to let them know, hey, the next couple of days, you can click on this link and add whatever questions regarding the culture, the vision, the mission, taking in consideration these documents, like the 7 core shifts, if we decide that that's a reasonable thing to include, blah, blah, blah. So everybody gets to feel part of co-creating the vision, co-creating the mission, co-creating the aims, and co-creating the culture.
This is why I am falling in love with you, Jorge. Just so you know, it's a very organizational kind of a thing. But honest to God, that so yes, I was building in my head that there's a Vegan World 2026 circle with 300 people on it, and that's all. And that's ethereal. That's not that. VCI is that circle, and then we've got a whole bunch of other defined circles, but VCI is the one. And so we can actually do this and get it sent out. And that is beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. Melissa.
I also want to add that our work, your work, can inspire the others. So if we're always waiting for permission, we cannot inspire the other side. That's why I really like, Jorge, what you're saying about this, that we're all in one sea together, the collective consciousness, and we get to co-create it, and that's really beautiful.
So we're holding the nominations until after we do that, so that we can figure out what it is that in case the qualifications change, in case we want to do something else. So then the next thing that we were going to do, we have two other things besides scheduling the next meeting, and that is having a general discussion about the idea of a tool library and then what the next steps are. Do we want to continue to do that, or do we want to say, we came to a really good place and we're going to hold that until we know what the VMA is and move that forward? I mean, so the question is, how do we want to proceed from here? What does everyone else think?
The least time reading of the questions that you have gathered, I really like it. Like these questions, I believe that if you ask me, I would consent to them, but not as a definite list. Just like the starting, like there's a format. I would like to share, like maybe, I don't know if it's ethical or not to show like the format that we're using in another group, or just wait until the meeting so we can like set up a Google Drive and put a format for us. But there's a format. Let's just like call it a format where you can put all these questions and relate it to your name, no? Like who proposed these questions? Anne, right? And then Jessica can have like a bunch of questions to add to that same spreadsheet. So that's the first step of gathering all these questions. I have all the voices represented. And then there's a second step to, once that list is finalized and consented, then you synthesize them and prioritize it. And then from that, you get to a third step that you get to say, okay, this is the final list, and this is the way we're going to divide it, and this is the prioritization. So I believe that this is very well used time to just read them out loud and not define them as the final list, or feel the urge or anxiety to consent to them and work right now with this, because we already have said that maybe we're jumping steps because it's nobody's fault. It's just like to get things going, to get the ball rolling. I think you call it like that, and add on, like build on these kind of meetings and say, okay, now we have the Google Drive, now we have the spreadsheet, now we can send this starting list out to the 300 people on board of the Vegan World 2026.
Okay, cool. So we'll read these out loud. We'll add anything that we come up with today. Can you send us the format, even if it's not filled out? Can you send us the spreadsheet?
Sure. It is really not a big format. Yeah. Like I would like to maybe, yes, I can send it out.
Well, you know what? You're on the process. You're on the process
Yes.
group, and this is the process group is gonna design whatever it is that we do with VCI. So you actually don't have. It doesn't need to go to this group because we're going to do it there, and then everyone will have it.
Yeah, the best way is to, like, even though I'm not a candidate for centralization, I believe in the cloud not being centralized. It's a way to have the file available for everyone, so we can start playing with it. But yeah, in the meantime, I definitely can email how many people are we, or to everybody, the file so they can look at it. And once you look at it, you will say, oh, this is it.
Well, that's a lot of the stuff is really simple, except that it's taking the time. Again, it's building this foundation, and then you can see how things are going to fall into place and work much more easily in the future. It's just that, you know, digging that foundation and setting the base and, you know, doing all of those things, tarring the crawl space, you know, all those things. It just takes some time to do, and that's what we're doing. And we're just doing it in some backwards ways because we were really excited about getting some things going. And so,
Yeah, just a question. You want this file right now to look at it in real time, or after the meeting is done, or should I share it right now on the screen? I will send it also, but just like to look at it. Or is people interested in this, or we can pass? What do you think?
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say we've already reached the 90-minute that we were first intending to stick to, and now we're going over. So maybe we post that and take a look at it offline.
All right.
That's
I will send it via email to everybody that I had the. Like, I don't know if I have Nolan on that last one. Let me check.
I'll send you Nolan's email address. Okay.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Benjamin.
And Benjamin, thank you for talking about the fact that we have hit our 95 minutes, 96 minutes that we said that we were going to do. And I think given what it is that we're doing, this is a great place to take a break. So we're going to hold on to the things that are written on the agenda to come back to at an appropriate future time after we have done the VMA for VCI and the VMA for this group. But we'll hold them and we'll start the document once we get that. And then for scheduling the next meeting, that's item number 7, we're going to send out a doodle. I'm not as certain about when to schedule the next meeting. I mean, how long? A week, 2 weeks, because we need to have the VMA done for VCI. So if we are able to do that on Tuesday, and I'm not sure we'll be able to finish that on Tuesday. I'm just not sure. Yeah, right. It's not going to happen. So next Tuesday is, what is that, the 28th? So after the next February, so like the first week in February, we should schedule another meeting for this group. Does that make sense to everyone here? Okay. All right. First week. Hi, Ray. Welcome. First week of February for next meeting. And I'll do it toward the end of the week because of that meeting on Tuesday. Hopefully 2 weeks will be enough time to get the VMA done for VCI, and then we can meet. Okay, so the last thing on the agenda that I do want to do is to thank everyone again for hanging in here with this awkwardness and with this building this foundation. And I'd like to ask that we do a quick round of everybody sharing, something about what you're leaving with in terms of feelings, thoughts, and that be relatively quick. So who would like to start?
I'll go real quick. Again, I'm excited for where we're going with this. I know that it's going to take a little bit of patience, and it's a little bit like trekking through some mud right now, but it's to get to that solid ground that we can all start running on. So I'm looking forward to it.
I really love this. I've been struggling with a lot of issues around things we've been talking with just generally in the world, the way women are treated, the way systems have been run. I'm carrying the shadow big time. And so this gives me a lot of hope. And I really want to thank all of you for this illumination and this way forward. Thank you so much.
All righty. Since I got the mic, also very grateful for all the structure and methodology that we're putting to this. I'm a little frustrated that we haven't discussed any of the VMA stuff today. I think that would be nice to do that, but totally happy to go with the flow and be patient there.
All right, thank you. Ray, do you want to?
I'm glad the agenda is so well spelled out that so I'll be able to see what I missed. I'm looking at a notice here that Thursday, January 23rd, 3:30 p.m. That's what I've got on my schedule.
Oh,
I just happened to see Benjamin's ping saying that that's old.
No, the 3:30 is the tutorial. I think you're on both. Yeah, you are listed on both the tool library and the tutorial. The tutorial is the meeting at 3:30. So did you not intend to be on the tool library? Do you want me to take you off this?
I have tool library as 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
No.
Oh, and this solves one of my issues, that the tool library was what we needed to discuss first before determining what the tutorials should be. So there was rational thought put into this. I just missed it.
It's also posted on. I'm trying to post all of these meetings on the VCI calendar as well.
Okay.
Right.
So we do have a list of tutorials that we need to make, or is that still something in development?
Yeah. So Ray, we're building the foundation, and we're actually going to talk about this during the tutorial conversation because of the conversation that we just had. And so I think things are still moving a bit in trying to figure out how to build this foundation so that we can move forward. So I've got 45 minutes to figure out what and how to present to the tutorial group. But we did not actually get through the entire agenda because we are starting at a second step, which I will define in much greater detail during the next meeting. So we're kind of slowing down a little bit. Yeah, Jorge?
I believe the social technology part of the library is the one that we have been working on, but the actual hardware or software technology such as Doodle and Basecamp tutorials can move forward, right? And I would like to say that quickly. I'm really grateful for the presence of everyone showing up and to have such a great disposition to go through this transition to get things going smoothly. And it's not going to take long. It's not going to take long. Like, we can make this happen fast. And the basis and the way that Anne has been showing this and reading everything, and she's really passionate about it, and everybody's open-minded about trying something new. That whole combination of elements is magical. Thank you.
Thank you. I am really excited about this. And I think that once we get our footing, once we get that foundation, we are going to be able to do a lot of work very quickly, and it's going to make a lot of sense. It just doesn't quite yet, but every time we meet, it gets a little bit clearer. So yeah, so I'm extremely grateful also. And like I said, I'm just really excited. This is, I described myself as a process or methodology geek earlier, Jorge, because I don't know much about technology. This stuff just really does kind of get me going. So thank you. So Ray, I will see you at 3:30. I'm not sure. Nope, I don't think anyone else. Nope, we've got a different group. So Ray, I'll see you at 3:30, and I'll get the process group meeting out there as soon as everyone finishes the doodle. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.